Today, I build a box. So I'm going to start off like most projects and cut down some board to rough length here. This is some 4/4 sapele. I think it was surface, two sides. Saved me some work. Um, Obviously, one side was not surface, so I'm going to just give it a little straight edge with a plane, and then I'll take it over to the table saw. Here I'm going to resaw with the table saw. I know this can be kind of scary, so a feather board is essential to keep it all nice and tight against the fence and push through. You also want to take a small pass at a time and just raise your blade up incrementally. So flip it over and make sure that you keep that side that's against the fence the whole time. That way your distance is, not distance, thickness. You want to make sure your thickness is the same just in case you're not completely centered. And then you just raise it up slowly until you get a little bit left, and then I take that over to do the rest of that with a hand saw. This goes pretty quick. I'll slow it down here for you so you can see just how I do it. I do like to put a little shim in there as I turn the board over to prevent some binding on my blade. And then I'll take them over to the planer to get rid of that little rib in the middle. And when I do this, the trick is you want to, since they're so short, you want to run them end to end. That way nothing's going to kick back. So just be speedy about it so they catch them before they fall off the end there as they push their way through. So these are the top panels. So I'm going to rip them to size first. The offcut that I leave, I'm going to use later for my rails. So you'll see where those come in. And then I'm going to take them over to the miter saw after I've ripped both to thickness or width, and I'm going to cut them exactly the same. So you can see here I'm taking the top one that is already the right length. I am using it, lining up the ends, pushing it up against the blade there, against the teeth, so that you make an exact cut. You can see my line for reference, and I make two exactly the same size panels. And now back over to the table saw where I take those, I use a sacrificial fence to bury my blade a little bit so I can make a rabbet on the edges of both of these panels. So here I am taking my first pass and I'm checking to see if I have it at the right depth, and then I'll just sneak up on my final fitment. I have a measure that I'm going for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll use these panels to cut my grooves in the sides of the box so that I know that I have a perfect fit. Speaking of those side rails, so first thing I need to do is I'm just going to find the middle, roughly the middle at least, and that's how high my blade's going to need to go, and then I'll make a mark along the edge where I want to start my dado. And so it's more important to find out where I'm going to start it. Where it ends doesn't really matter. I just want the thickness of that top to match up with the edge of this. Alright, back at the table saw, do a quick little line up on my mark, make sure that I'm good, lock it down. Give you a nice little look at the wolf head there. Isn't that a cool sweatshirt? My wife got me that. I really like that thing. Alright, after a couple of passes, I will go ahead and check for my fitment, see if we are close, and we're super close. I think I try to push a little bit harder, see if I can get it in there. Nope, not quite. So another little bump over on the fence and another pass. And actually what I'm going to do to see if I'm good this time is I'm going to bump it over, and then I'm going to take just a little kiss off right here. And I don't do this to check to make sure it's not too tight. I do it so I don't make sure it's not too loose, because I can always trim off that little bit. But if I take too much or I do a full pass, then I have to make new rails. Whoa, watch out. Here's that wolf again. Alright, so all I'm doing is I'm just taking a 45, and I like to do this like trim where you stand it up against the fence tall ways, and then you just bevel over to that 45. And then I'm going to take my second one here, which I took the end off, and then I'm going to slide the two so that the two ends match up. I'm going to do it just like the panel, but instead of having a place to be able to positive stop against the blade, I'm just going to bring this down and line it up directly with the edge of where those two met, and then I'll know I have two perfect fit pieces here. I'll check it to make sure. And the reason why that's important is a box or a frame, as long as the parallel sides are exactly the same length, then it's going to come together much better than if you have any issues there. So here, little dry fit, I'm just going to clean this up with a chisel, make sure I get a good fitment all the way around, and I like to do this before I break out any glue, just to make sure that we're good. And at this point you get a pretty good shot of the sweatshirt here, so let me know in the comments which is your favorite animal. The bear, the wolf, the owl. There's a lot to choose from there. And here I'm going to show you a little trick, and that's not to put minimal glue so you don't get squeezed out. It's where you're supposed to clean your fingers after you finish spreading glue. You just put it underneath there. That's a perfect spot for it. No one's ever going to find it. And this goes together easy peasy. I'm just going to quickly center that middle panel on both sides. And if you don't have one of these, I highly recommend them. This is just a little ratchet strap bandy thing with some corners. If you do picture frames or small boxes like this, they are essential. Now here I am finding the middle of the box. So I marked a line on one side, flipped it around, marked the same line on the other side, and I got my square close to the middle, but it wasn't quite in the middle. And you can see there, that space right in the middle there, that's the middle of the box. That's where I need to line up the saw to make it perfect. Pucker and push, and I didn't screw it up. You really want to make sure your blade is perfectly 90 degrees there. I did not like the skinniness of the ends, so I ended up just going with the hand cut and cleaning it up with a block plane. You could sand this instead of using a block plane here, but I wanted to keep the integrity of it. I didn't want to accidentally dig in on the edges. Otherwise, it's going to mess up the grain wrap later. Here's the box. See that? There it is. Final step, I have to cut these rails that are going to hold the lid on, because right now the lid won't stay on, so that's what these will do, and they'll hold the stone in place as well while it's in use. So you'll see in a second how those work. The key here to sanding is to assemble first, that way everything stays nice and even and you don't create any inconsistencies. But enough of me talking, enjoy the rest of the video.